Paltrocast.
How is your day going, Zach, aside from having to talk to journalists asking you the same questions over and over and over again?
No, man. I mean, I love it. I just did the Mistress Carrie podcast recently and had a blast, kind of going down memory lane with her, going the Boston days. WAAF, for those who don't know, was sort of one of the iconic rock radio stations in America. And I love it, man. I mean, listen, I said to her, and I'll say to you, I'm a songwriter in Nashville. I've never done anything else but music, and I feel lucky. I'm the luckiest dude around. So yeah.
I think that you're the luckiest dude around because you got to play alongside Ray Luzier for a tour cycle or two. But that's not what we're here to talk about. We're here to talk about the decades of success, because I think, like most people, I first discovered the Nixons from Sister, never coming off the airwaves here in New York on K-Rock. Hit. It was a hit. And then you've never stopped touring. So I'm curious when you knew, hey, I don't have to worry about album cycles and singles. We're a band. We're going to keep at it. We're going to have great years, not great years. And this is a business.
Yeah, well, interestingly, we did take some time off in the middle, and we've just come back, about 4 or 5 years ago. We just did a great tour last summer with Everclear and Fastball, had a blast. My day job has been writing songs with other people. So that's really what I do. I mean, I'm doing it today at 11 o'clock down on Music Row here in Nashville, Tennessee. So I've been lucky enough to have hits with Carrie Underwood and songs with Blake Shelton, but then also a couple #1 songs with Shinedown this last year. So I am the luckiest guy. I get to do that. But to answer your question about the Nixons, yeah, it's kind of cool to have that always there. Of like, we just released a single in December called December.
All December, yes.
and we've gotten new music coming. Yeah, it's pretty cool, and I don't want to cheese out on like modern technology, but just there's so many ways to just put a clip on Instagram and maybe something starts to happen with it, and yeah, it's amazing to have that outlet back again, the Nixons.
Right. Now, if I could talk about the Nashville phase of your career for a bit. So I don't know if you're weird about that or this is all Nixons all the time.
No, man,
okay.
Again, it is a lot of what I do.
Right. So the compliments are going to start now, which is that a lot of people have had a hit. A lot of people have then gone away, come back, etc. And a lot of those people started writing for other artists. And of course, Dan Wilson from Semisonic and Kevin Griffin from Better Than Ezra, et cetera. But very few of them have cracked the Nashville nut. In other words, it's such a different trade where some people just specialize in the lyrics. The artist isn't necessarily in the room, which is very different from other genres. What was your gateway into the Nashville scene? Because obviously the Nixons were not a Nashville band.
Nah, man, we were Oklahoma as it gets, and kind of still are, even though I'm here. I'll tell you, we took a band called Bowling for Soup out on tour, and Jarrett is still a dear friend of mine, just produced his country record last year. He called me out of the blue and said, hey, you ever write with other people? And I went down to Texas and we wrote. We had a semi-hit called Ohio, Come Back to Texas. And so that was my opening into songwriting. That led to writing with American Idol contestants. That was something that was a pretty big deal to people like me and Kevin, who you mentioned, Rain Maida from Our Lady Peace, who I've written with, as well.
Right.
Us, ex, rock and roll singers turned into songwriters. The gateway to Nashville was pretty simple, man. The management company that did all those bands managed Carrie Underwood. She grew up in Oklahoma. She was aware of the Nixons. Next thing I know, I'm in the room with her, and a year later had a #1 country song. So that opened the door into Nashville. I will say, my pie chart of songwriting is still a lot of rock. Aaron Jones last year, Shinedown, had a Hailstorm song last year. featuring Ashley McBryde, country singer. So there you go. That's my life, right? It's a whole lot of rock and roll, but country music, is ever present.
Like the Osmond song, to use that bad joke and reference. But it's fascinating to me that Jarrett was the gateway, because Jarrett himself had an awful attempt at Nashville. He's told that story about writing, getting in the room with the person and them saying, "Why don't we write a song called I'm in Love with a Porn Star," or something like that, and him just being disgusted and leaving the room and going, "This is not for me." So that's the artist who got you into it, the one who, very successful writer. I know about the synchronization success that Jarrett's had, and the theme songs, and the Chuck E. Cheese voice, etc. But the guy who didn't cut it in Nashville is the one who got you into it.
Well, I should say that he was some sort of my introduction to. I'll back up. The Nixons had that moment where the A&R guys said, quote Tom Petty, "We don't hear a single," flew me to LA. I wrote with Marty Fredrickson, who I still write with today. He lives in Nashville. Yeah. Marty wrote Jaded and a bunch of other big hits. Sorry.
Oh yeah, Buck Cherry, everything. Yeah.
Yeah. So Marty's still a good friend of mine, and we work together a lot. He was really the first co-write I did. Jarrett was the first co-write I did outside of the Nixons, but really then Carrie Underwood was sort of the entrance to Nashville, to be my calling card, to be like, oh, this guy can write a country hit. I will also tell you that the story Jarrett tells about Nashville is he came to Nashville to write with me, and I hooked him up with a bunch of different co-writes around town. And yeah, I've heard him tell that story now, and I'm like, oh man, I'm sorry, Jarrett, but no, he's kicking ass now, having country hits in Texas left and right. So yeah.
Yeah, Texas country, Nashville country, your Pat Green versus your Carrie Underwood kind of scene, different success barriers. But hey, back to you, Zac. So the December single came out in December. We know now every December it's going to come back, etc. So what's going on for you and or the Nixons in terms of new music?
Yeah, man, I'm excited that that's out. We released it with Pavement Music in Chicago, a great company in Chicago. Love them. And so December's out. We've got recorded. We've got other stuff recorded that's sort of in the can. And just follow our social media pages and website, nixonsofficial.com, because we are definitely going to be releasing some stuff soon.
Mm-hmm. So it's the kind of thing where the songwriting is the day job, and then every now and then somebody goes, "Hey, you want 4 to 6 weeks of Nixon's dates?" And you go, "Okay," or fly out dates, and you go, "Okay," that kind of a scenario.
Yeah, that's exactly right, man. We'll have some announcements soon of some hopefully some festivals will be on. And again, I just have to say I'm so happy to have the Nixons sort of back in my life, and I not to get too in the weeds about songwriting, but if there's ever a song that I present to some of my writing partners that's a little weird, I had a song on the last Nixons album called Dead Electric that wouldn't have worked as a Carrie Underwood title at all. So yeah, it's cool. And it's nice to be talking to you about it, because I do sort of like consider myself pretty, like I started this conversation, blessed, lucky, whatever cheesy word you want to use. But yeah, it's great.
So Carrie's name has come up a few times, and we all originally just knew her as American Idol lady. And then in the past few years, we saw her come out during a Guns N' Roses show. We saw Axl Rose come out during her show. And you go, oh, okay, that is a rock person who happens to do pop and country. And whenever I go see a country artist live, I hear the music and I go, they clearly grew up on Mutt Lange records, Def Leppard, Rat, GNR. Was that very helpful to you breaking in, where the people kind of went, by the way, we're rock people just cosplaying as country people?
Dude, that you nailed it. I mean, it's Carrie is a rock fan. I mean, the first day I wrote with her, she started name checking rock bands that I was like fans of, or were getting ready to write with, or had written with. So yeah, it's to me, this whole thing, the genre thing that I grew up with, which was very much small town Oklahoma, you loved country or you hated country, but now it's like, it's all just good music. I had a guy tell me when I moved to Nashville, um, sort of a mentor of mine, whatever you do, don't start trying to write country songs. Don't try to write about a tailgate and a tan line and Budweiser. Just write. It's just songs. Just write good music, write good songs. And so, yeah, I'll never be that country, but yeah, it's all just good music, man. And you're right, rock and roll, country, all the lines are blurred. I mean, look at people like Jelly Roll and all
Party, yeah.
Absolutely.
What genre are these people? Machine Gun Kelly, you could even say. You start off as a rapper and now you're a pop punk guy. Somehow you connected it. So
yeah, absolutely. The moral of the story is who cares?
Who cares is right. And I name checked Ray at the beginning of the interview. And the reason that all came up was I wrote a book that just came out this week about David Lee Roth. And I'm curious because you're the only gig that I know that Ray had while he was playing with Roth. Did that ever come up in conversation?
Absolutely, man. That's funny, man. You're pulling some deep dives here. No, man, we got all kinds of stories, and you probably know a bunch of them. But
Yes.
but no, Ray was great. Ray, obviously, for those who don't know, is now in Korn. I've been lucky, by the way. My drummer in the Nixons, John Humphrey, is the drummer for Seether full time.
Yeah.
And so I've been super lucky to have basically, the best drummers in the world, right staring at my backside. So, yeah, man, I mean, that's great. I got to check your book out. That's pretty cool.
You will get comp to copy. This was not meant to be a self-promotional thing.
I love it.
It's more that when you look at how great he is in Korn, and how he cut his teeth with an early gig besides Roth being the Nixons, it was kind of making me go, well, Zac has an eye for sidemen. He has an eye for talent. How did he wind up in the band? Is there a random Pittsburgh tie?
No Pittsburgh tie. Dude, it's just so funny that you're bringing this up. Some as is with all bands, we had some bumps in the road. John left. We had a new bass player from our second album, Ricky Walking. And Ricky had been in this cover band with Ray in LA where they played metal. I can't remember, was it called Metal Shop? I can't remember the name of it.
Exactly. Metal Shop, Metal School before it became Steel Panther.
Yeah. So it was Ricky. Ricky knew Ray. Bring Ray to Oklahoma. Boom, you're in the Nixons, and it was great. It was a lot of fun to be around Ray. I'll back up and talk about. He had great stories about David Lee Roth, but my favorite story is actually our tour manager on our first tour is a guy named Paul Silvera, and Paul worked for Van Halen, and he tells this story. Paul is he speaks six languages, and they were traversing the Amazon River, and they stopped at one stop and got a telegram that basically said, "Oh, festival, $1 million, come home." And so that's my favorite Van Halen story. That didn't come from Ray, but that came from my ex tour manager, Paul.
So that story is in David Lee Roth's memoir, but he doesn't say Paul's name. He only talks about like Ed Anderson was his only accomplice on all these things. But
okay,
we know Paul's an unsung hero, probably under a non-disclosure or 2 or 3 or 4.
Oh shit! Did I just get us in trouble?
No. I think it's kind of funny that some of the biggest heroes in rock that saw all the great stuff can't ever talk about it for whatever reason, but Zac Maloy can.
Oh shit! Yeah.
So, bringing down to the last 2 questions here, being respectful of your time. The first thing is, what's the best way to find out when you've co-written a song for somebody that got cut and is on an album?
Oh man. However I find out is the best way I find out. It's always different too. It's funny.
I mean, us, the fans, knowing.
Like what's the best way for you to find out?
For us to find out, that's Zac's song. Do we just follow you on Instagram and wait for the post?
Yeah, I think so. It's funny I haven't been asked that question before, and I will say that as I'm just thinking about it, I was always a little bit of a nerd looking at the credits on albums.
Yeah, same here.
Like, oh, is that the same Stevie Ray Vaughan on the David Bowie song? And I nerded out on all that stuff. So now it's easier, right? Just go follow Zac Maloy on Instagram and wherever you follow people, follow the Nixons definitely. I will always post. Have a new song out with a band called Blackstone Trigger. Have songs coming out with other bands soon, and I'll always post them. I'm super proud. Yeah.
Got it. And the last question I have, and this is not meant to be deprecating. This is more of a compliment of sorts. So when you see Barry Manilow live, he does that middle thing in the show where he plays all the jingles that he wrote for American Bandstand and go, hey, I wrote this and this and this. Yeah. And it's this big, powerful thing. Is there a Zac Maloy medley that could be done of all the songs that you've done for the other people, that, your 7-minute spot in the middle of the show?
Wow. Interesting. So I'm playing a couple shows at the end of this month. I do these shows where I sit with an acoustic guitar and I tell stories, and it's always fun and also a little tricky to put together a set list, where I'm going to sit and play a 90-minute show all by myself. I mentioned Rain from Our Lady Peace. I had a song that was a hit in Canada many years ago called All You Did Was Save My Life. And I added it to the set list this time because I've never played it. A medley would be amazing, and I should really think about connecting some of my songs because I don't get to play all of them, because I've had so many songs come out over the years. But that's great. I'll start thinking about a mashup between Shinedown, Carrie Underwood, and Our Lady Peace. How about that?
I mean, if you go the 1-4-5 chord route, you might find they all go into each other.
I got a few of those. I'm not going to lie.
Well, I think the bottom line is I have to thank you for the many years of great music. I also have to thank you for being a positive artist, because a lot of people have that initial 1 or 2 hit. It doesn't happen the way they panned out, and then they quit. They don't find the plan B, which actually turns out to be more successful than what originally happened. So I say congratulations. Looking forward to the next holiday single, the more Nixons music, etc. And really, thank you for your time, Zac.
Man, I appreciate you saying that. And the truth is that what's the line, the Liam Neeson line of like, I've got a particular set of skills, and that's all I've got. I just have one very narrow set of skills, which is just making music. So I appreciate you having me on and getting to talk about it. I love kind of cheesing out, like I said, over all that stuff. So very cool. Congrats on the book, by the way.
Paltrow.